Okay, everyone, welcome to this week's coffee break. I'm really excited that we are joined by the Library Services folks today. My name is Rachel Heuerman. I'm the Director of Alumni Relations, and I focus on everything engagement for our alums. So if you have any event ideas or topics that you'd like to hear about, just let me know. Otherwise, just some housekeeping things to keep in mind. We are using Zoom, so if you're having any issues with your sound or video, there's kind of some tips at the bottom left-hand side of this screen. We do have a question and answer function for this, so if you have any questions you want to ask the folks that work in the library, they can answer questions for you. And then there's also a chat box function, so you can chat and kind of chat in your information and kind of talk it back and forth to some of our attendees. So with that, I'm going to kick it off to Elizabeth McDonald and let her introduce herself.
Hey everybody, my name is Liz McDonald. I'm the Dean of University Library Services. I have been with the university for 17 years. I oversee all things library, our resources, our amazing team, which Lisa's joining me here today. And I look forward to telling you a little bit about what we're doing in the library today.
And I'm Lisa Young, Director of Access Services, and I've been with Lindenwood for 13 years. And in my role, I get to be what I would call kind of the director of the front porch of the building, the Lark building where the library services are located. And we get to be the first team that tends to welcome people not only to our building, but sometimes to our campus, and then direct them to resources or referrals for information that they're looking for.
Thank you both. We're excited that you're here today. So I want to kick us off and just kind of ask about the library. There was a new library built a few years ago, so I'd love to learn about the Lark. That's what it's kind of nicknamed. Maybe some initiatives that you are working on, kind of what your team looks like, things like that, if somebody wants to kick it off.
I'll take that one. So yes, we've been in the Lark for 3 years. We moved in August of 2017. That project is kind of mine and my staff's baby. It was a campus-wide initiative that started around 2012. We wrote the proposal to get that building built, and it was a long, hard road, and it is now open. We moved from the old Butler Library, which we loved. We loved that. And every once in a while, we'll wander in there. It's like a haunted house now. But we love it and we miss it. But we moved into the new space. The old Butler Library was 36,000 square feet. This new building is 100,000 square feet. On the lower level, one of the intentions for the new building was to be sort of a one-stop shop. So when we were doing the planning for the building, it was very intentional that we had other support services in that building with us, so that when the students come in, they have access to library services, writing center, student academic support, career development. We also have Veterans Affairs in the building as well. And in addition to that, the way that it was set up is that every floor that you're on, while there are other offices on those floors, every floor has some type of library service or community space for groups to gather. We have 3 group study rooms on the 2nd floor, very high tech. We have a computer lab. We have 2 computer labs on the, well, they serve as training rooms as well as computer labs. We also have a media lab that has audio visual recording capabilities. We have a theater, and the thinking for the media lab in conjunction with that theater was so that you could produce audio video production type of thing, and then take it into that theater and see what it would look and feel like in that kind of setting. So that was the thinking on it, and it's worked really well. Also for the kids, we have a gaming room. So we have video games, we have AI, so there's an Oculus Rift in there. And we also have lots and lots of games that are that students can check out. They don't have to keep them just in that video game room. And then we also have media that's available to the students. So we love our building, and we enjoy watching our community enjoy it as well. Also attached to the building is 3 floors of classroom space. So that's the building. Did you want me to talk about some of our major initiatives right now, or did you have something for Lisa?
Liz, why don't you talk about the archives and kind of the new collection that you have, and then Lisa could also kind of chime in with some of the things that her team's been working on.
Okay. One of the things that we've been working on this project for about 9 months, and it finally came to fruition about 3 weeks ago. We had an opportunity to acquire the Sporting News archive. And if you're all familiar with the Sporting News is a newspaper that was based in St. Louis from 1888, and then it moved in 1888 to 2008, and then it left the St. Louis area when it was bought by a company called American City Business Journals. They moved the paper to Charlotte, North Carolina, but along with the newspaper, they had an archive and research library that supported the journalists and sports writers for that paper. That archive grew into a research facility that researchers and was open to the general public from across the nation. The archive consists of about 10,000 monographs or books. There's some old back issues of journals. There are rule books for baseball, hockey, any sport that you can imagine, and media guides. And there are player files. The 2 central pieces to this collection are player files, and those player files date back to 1888. And they're clippings files as well as other miscellaneous correspondence in those files. And it covers just about every player that's ever played Major League Baseball. It also covers other sports as well. But if you know anything about the Sporting News, it strictly covered baseball up until about the 1950s, and it was known as the Bible of baseball. There's a heavy focus, obviously, on baseball. So those player files are pretty amazing. I was just kind of rooting through when I found the files on Babe Ruth. And I actually found a file on one of my friends. His uncle managed the Cubs, and I believe he played for the St. Louis Browns. And so I was just kind of flipping through, and I said, God, this name sounds familiar, because it was from, I guess, 50, 60, I can't remember the exact dates. But I was like, I recognize that name. I'm like, oh my God, that's Alan's uncle. So there's some pretty amazing stuff in there. And then in addition to that, we have the papers of the owner. The owner's name was, the last name was Spink. Those files run from the 1930s up into the 1970s. And there is just a wealth of stuff in there. I found correspondence between Charles Spink and August Bush. I found correspondence between the Spink family and John Danforth, Thomas Eagleton. There is correspondence between the White House. There was a thank you note from the John F. Kennedy White House to Charles Spink for providing a subscription to the Sporting News. So, and there were a couple of other pieces in that file, but there was also a file that I didn't personally see, but one of my other staff members did, between the Spink family and the Eisenhower White House, and it had something to do with Eisenhower throwing a first pitch at one of the games. So I also, I could go on about this forever. I found a sheet of World Series tickets from 1959. Apparently, sports fans will correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was Los Angeles. I don't know if they were the Dodgers yet, but it was in Los Angeles. But it was an entire sheet of tickets. And then I'll end with this one. But I found a file from, it was titled the 1944 World Series, and in that file it was just a list of names and names of people that were getting tickets to that World Series. Apparently the St. Louis Browns were in the World Series that year, and they have the names of the person, how many tickets they were going to get and how much money they owed. And so, a lot of that was handwritten too. So it's kind of cool to see that. But along with that, there were memos of who did and did not pay for their tickets. And then in addition to that, there was a seating chart of the old Sportsman's Park, which was it was 2 stadiums ago. But the old Sportsman's Park, so there's a seating chart and where people were supposed to go. So it's just really, there's so much in there that's useful to a researcher as well as just the casual sports fan. You could just get, just a casual sports fan, you could get lost in this stuff because it's just so cool. What we're working on right now, I'm working on a grant to begin the process of prioritizing the processing of the collection so we can get it to a place where it's actually accessible to the public so that people can come in and look at it. Right now, it's very unorganized. And as librarians and archivists, that's kind of our job, is to get it organized and get it to a place where it's accessible to the public, because it's very, very exciting. I actually have a meeting with the curator for the Cardinals Museum and Hall of Fame on Wednesday to talk about how we might partner, because obviously the connection of the paper, baseball, the Cardinals, and there's a lot of local connection to the paper, but it reaches again beyond that. I don't know if I just mentioned this, I might have mentioned it in our pre-meeting, but that collection was actually cited in Ken Burns' baseball documentary along with the National Archives of Baseball in Cooperstown. So it's a really big deal, and it's a big score for the university and for the library as well. But it's going to be a lot of work. So that's my big thing right now. It's kind of all consuming. So.
Well, thank you, Liz. That's very exciting. And I know that we have a lot of baseball and sports fans in our alumni population. So they'll be excited to hear that.
Yep.
Lisa, can I kick it to you and just kind of ask, well, first of all, Liz mentioned the archives a lot. So maybe, are alums allowed to visit the archives, and what kind of resources are you kind of giving to our students and our alums kind of simultaneously? And what does that look like from the alumni perspective if they want to come back to campus?
Sure. So I'll start with the alumni since they are our audience today. So let me just walk you through, as an alumni, what you are able to access, and then what you're limited to. I'm going to refer to my notes here a little bit, just to make sure I get it right for you all. So alumni, the first thing you want to do, if you want to check out books, you can check out books, or DVDs will allow you to check out up to 10, but you will want to get an alumni ID card, and that jumpstarts the process of getting you in our library management system to be able to check out items. And so on the alumni website, there is a form that you can fill out if you would like to start that process of getting an alumni ID card. And really it just starts, Rachel will just take the baton from the starting line and get you all plugged into her records, and then she passes the baton to our IT department, who then gives us the final baton toss, if you will, to get you loaded into our management system so that you can check out items. The other thing you're able to do is utilize our library computers and our Wi-Fi. We do have a guest Wi-Fi, so anytime you want to come into the building and get some Starbucks and need a quiet space to just get some Wi-Fi, some work done, you are more than welcome to come and do that. To get on our computers, though, you will need to stop by our front desk, and you'll see a sign that says circulation desk, and it's right next to the IT help desk. And you'll stop by our desk and you will ask for the alumni login. And preferably, we'd like you to show us your alumni ID card, and then we can get you logged onto one of our computers. You are limited where you can't print, but you can access our databases as well, which some alumni do request from time to time of how can I access our databases. And one caveat I do want to describe with our databases is that with our databases, because of licensing that we partner with on the vendors, that we can only allow our graduates up to 2 years of their graduation date. And that's based on a Lindenwood email account as well. So your Lindenwood email should expire somewhere within the 2-year range of after you graduate or complete your coursework at Linenwood. And at that time, your off-campus access to databases will drop off as well. And so if you have graduated more than 2 years and you don't have access to your Linenwood email any longer, just know you can still access those databases, but you do have to come on to campus and be at the library's computer labs to do so. And that's, that's kind of it as far as, alumni, what you're able to do, and then just a little bit of caveats there as well. Rachel, do you want me to talk about an initiative or what we're doing to help students? I think that was where you were at, more of wanting me to talk about. Okay, so now let's focus on the okay, so sorry, I just see a question pop up from one of our viewers here, so I do want to address that. And I'm just going to pop up my chat so I make sure I'm reading it. Okay, so one of our viewers wants to know if an LU alumni card is required, whether I must be on campus to use EBSCO. Yes, and the qualifier is if you have graduated more than 2 years ago, then you will need to have an alumni ID card and come to campus, get the alumni login from the front desk, and get on the computer. And that's all because of licensing from our e-resources vendors there.
Can I also comment on this too? So
yeah.
Lisa and I have started the Lindenwood University Book Club on campus, which is very exciting. And I think this is what our viewer is asking is, she wants to get involved with the book club, but is trying to get the password. And so what we will do, since you have graduated more than 2 years ago, Lisa will put together an access guide of here are free and low cost options that are available to you, even if you're not able to get into EBSCOhost. And so we will be providing that within the next week or so that you can say, okay, Amazon has $3 copies of this, or Half Price Books has $2 copies of this. We'll find you the resources and the places that you can go to order your book. And that way it's a low cost or potentially free option for you. So
yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel, for tuning in with that that guidance about the Lindenwood Book Club. But current students, what we're doing to help current students. So, in pandemic time, when all of us began working remotely and all classes began going to online only in March, our first focus was how can we make sure that the students still know that we are here to support them and to help them and guide them, even if we can't be at that front desk. And so our big initiative was elongating our chat hours. We have had chat for years where students can just see our chat box when they enter our website. They can ask us anything and everything, and they really do ask us anything and everything. But we really wanted to double up staffing on that to make sure that we had more hands on deck than ever for that. And the other thing, and I want to give shout out to Nancy Messina, Director of Reference. She began, what do I want to call it, launching a Zoom drop-in. So for 2 hours a day, anybody could meet, just like you and I are, and all of the audience, just like this, to get shared screens and back and forth research help. So that, 2 hours a day, there was always a reference librarian to help that. So we really wanted to make sure that we were still visible and accessible to our students, even if they couldn't come into our building and see us. And then the other thing that we really focus on helping our students is just having a bigger focus on our e-resources. So another thing that kudos to the reference team, especially Megan Pfeiffer Davis, for putting in a continuity of service guide that really had a comprehensive list of here are your big e-resources. And also as a team, we were constantly having our antenna out for what publishers, what database vendors were giving us more options freely available because of the pandemic, and making sure that our community was aware of all this free new research material that that all these academic providers were making sure we had in our hands. And I think going forward, we will continue to, to be as available as possible electronically, and also have even more of a focus on e-resources for collection development moving forward. Since we're still just a little bit week to week on what's going on with the pandemic, we will always want to make sure that our students, wherever they're researching, whether that's on campus or in their house, or even internationally, that they have what they need to be successful.
Thank you, that's very helpful. We had a question come in about, do alumni have access to Lindenwood's archives, and what would that process look like if they wanted to come visit the archives? I know we have a lot of folks who potentially visited the old alumni house, or were at school when Butler Library was being used. So any access to the archives and what that process might look like?
I can answer this one. Paul Huffman, our archivist, he does a fantastic job, and he loves working with alumni, and he is a go-to guy for, sometimes people are like, hey, my aunt went there and I really want to know more about that. And he's such a great guide. He's a perfect person for his role. And so, yes, he would welcome alumni, but first I would just encourage you to reach out to Paul Huffman. And, as we, I will say one caveat is that we haven't actually opened the library up quite yet. And so, just we'll have to keep everybody posted on when our building is open in our services. We are in the process of getting all the furniture moved and social distance and taking the necessary precautions and guidelines there. But when we are open, definitely reach out to Paul Huffman or anybody on library staff, and we can direct the alumni to Paul.
Thank you. So I want to be respectful of your times, and these chats have kind of been lasting about 30 minutes. So I really just wanted to get your feedback on what can if you could kind of give one piece of advice to our alums or our students right now, what would you say they should be doing for, should they come visit campus eventually when we're able to, what resources should they take advantage of? Kind of what's your number one tip that you would give our alums out there right now?
I would just say we should be back in business. The building should be open when students return August 17th. We've been working really hard to make sure that the building is ready for the public to come in. And I would just really encourage you, if you need anything, to come in and just feel free to use the space, and just feel free to use the service as well. Ask us any questions that come to mind, any help that you might need that requires information. Please just that would be my tip. Just come in and visit us. We love to see you.
Yeah, well said, Liz. Very well said. Yeah, I was thinking that, as we extend our virtual services and our virtual chat to our students, we do get them asking us everything. I had a student chatting about, I need to print something in a certain way to go to the DMV and renew my license, and I mean, we help with those types of questions, so like Liz said, feel free to reach out. If you have just a general Lindenwood question, or even a very specific Lindenwood question, we can direct you to the resources or the department or the person that can help you with whatever you're looking for.
And I would just like to say that Butler Library is still around and very much lively. They are doing renovations on it just to kind of bring it back up to code, so it's a building that people can use. And so it is being restored. So if you are ever on campus and want to do a tour of Butler Library in the future when it's ready, we would be happy to do that. But we can also give you a tour of the new Lark building and kind of show you all the spaces in there. And like Liz mentioned, it is a one-stop shop. So Career Services is also housed in the LARC. So, and you can take advantage of all the services that Career Services has. So if you need help interviewing, resume, you know, anything like that, they can kind of help you with those resources as well too. So that's always an option. Well, I want to thank you both for your time. I'm going to stop sharing here in just a minute and stop recording, but just want to really thank you. I think that there's kind of always that, you know, confusion. Can I go back to campus? Like, when can I go back to campus? What can I use on campus? And so as an alum, I think it's great to kind of know that we can go to the library and have a space for our folks to go, and that we'll welcome them with such open arms. So thank you both so much, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.